Yeah, it should be a good one. Like, the way formatted is a lot of specific tips and being able to demonstrate it too. So for the people who make it, it should be hopefully a good value add there.
Okay. Did you start the recording already? Oh, we're not on yet. Okay. We'll give them 2 more minutes to sign on. Otherwise, we'll get started. John, I like your background. You'll have to tell me how you got that. Wow.
Sean, it looks like you were muted if you were.
It's one of my options I found.
Where'd you find it?
At the bottom when you're by your camera, it gives you like a 4 or 5 selections. There they come.
Sean, you'll have to put that on mine. Hi, Kara. Oh, I see Jennifer Cash Wade and Kara Weiner is signing on. Judith Barnhart, I think she got on. Yep. They're coming in. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Doris. I think I'm muted.
That's okay. Stay muted. Stay muted.
I will. Oh, no, I'm not. Hi, Sean.
Hey, Miss Cash Wade, how you doing?
I'm well, dear.
Good morning, all.
Hi, Lisa.
Morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
Good morning, all of you. This is Judith Bernhardt, and I'm on vacation and still in my jammies. So,
Well, that's okay.
so I'm not going to subject you all to that with my video.
Well, we'll educate you in your jammies.
Sounds good.
All right. Just about
Hello,
ready.
everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Melody.
Melody Martin with the DEI department. I work under Lisa Edmonds.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I am starting in about 30 seconds, Sean. It's 11:04, and I don't want to hold this up for those that really have an interest like us. Good morning, everyone. This is Doris Carson Williams with the African American Chamber of Commerce here in Western Pennsylvania, and our mission to continuously improve business opportunities for not only African American business owners, but all small business owners in our region. We are so pleased to have with us, based on your request from when we did the Microsoft Office workshop, this one is broken out for the Excel, and we're pleased to have this workshop that's designed to teach you tips and tricks for using Word and Excel. Ray Vargo, Director, University of Pittsburgh Small Business Development Center, and Johnny Gamble, Management Consultant at the SBDC, will provide examples and hands-on information on how to conduct and answer questions for you during this session to resolve any issues that you may have. So I think we're all in for a big treat. Let me turn this over to Ray Vargo to kick it off and enjoy this. Don't forget, you will receive a copy of the presentation after the workshop. So we need to make sure you're on just to make for us to send it out. Welcome, Ray.
Well, Doris, again, it's always great to partner with the African American Chamber of Commerce related to providing business owners and members additional resources and tools to help improve their efficiency and to lead to profitability. I could see by looking at some of the names, I'm very familiar with some of the names, and some of you probably remember before we utilized Word and Excel of tools like Lotus 1, 2, types of things. The way I paid my way through graduate school was doing the books for a restaurant and catering business that had 3 locations, and I use Lotus 1, 2, 3 extensively, and I still use all the different keystrokes from Lotus 1, 2, 3 because I'm so familiar with that. But again, we've moved to Microsoft suite of services, the Office suite of services, and integrating Office and Excel into your business functions can lead to reduction of labor, and as Johnny will be telling you today, some things to look at and maybe some tips that you didn't know or tricks you didn't know to help make things a little bit easier of transitioning a document in Word or a spreadsheet. And so we're really pleased to have a person that is very qualified and understands the Microsoft suite of services significantly, Johnny Gamble, who's a member of our consulting team, who's going to lead us this afternoon. And so, Johnny, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll be here monitoring the chat, maybe answering any kind of questions or helping you address those as we go along. So good afternoon.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the introduction, Ray. Again, it's a pleasure to see everybody here today. It's going to be, we have a lot of fun information, a lot of tips and tricks to get into today. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. We can go ahead and get right started. Share my screen. Okay. So as I understand, my screen should be sharing now. If it's not, somebody let me know. But with that, again, welcome everyone to the webinar today. We're going to be going over some specific tips and tricks when it comes to using Word and Excel. So a little bit of the agenda of what we're going through today is one of the, first we're going to start off with a discussion of using Microsoft Word and Excel versus using their Google alternative, Docs and Sheets. Then we're going to go into some specific tips for Word. I broke it down into starter tips, intermediate tips, and expert tips. So depending on your level of expertise, there should be some tips there for each level of your understanding of Word then. After that, we're going to then head into Excel and cover some of those specific information there, and then end with a Q&A to go over any of those tips in a little bit more detail. So to start off with, one of the questions that came up in our last seminar was a lot of discussion about using Microsoft Word versus their Google alternatives. So if you're not familiar with Word and Excel, Google's alternative to Word and Excel are Google Docs and Google Sheets. So they're relatively similar services. You can use them for a lot of your core basic uses. So creating a written document in Word or Docs, or creating a spreadsheet in Excel or Sheets then. The pros to using Google services is that they tend to be free at the lowest level. In order to go and use Google Docs or Google Sheets, all you really have to do is go make a Google account, and then boom, you can get right there to working on it then. They're also really great for collaboration. Let's say you're working with your team and you want to have multiple people working on one document at the same time. Google services are a lot better at managing that collaboration at the exact same time than Microsoft. Microsoft products have the ability to have multiple people working on it at the same time, but it doesn't tend to work as well. Like you can use that through OneDrive and SharePoint and sharing files back and forth. But in terms of working on one document at the exact same time, Google tends to be a little bit better on that. Now, the pros to using Word and Excel, though, is that they tend to have a bit more features. They tend to have more features, a lot more of the cutting edge features. Oftentimes when Word and Excel add a feature, maybe a little bit down the line, something similar will be added to Docs or Google Sheets then. There also tend to be, Word and Excel also tend to be a little bit more user friendly. Like in order for someone to figure out how to use these programs, Word and Excel came around first. So they're a little bit easier to use. There are a lot more online resources to help work you through it there. Also, again, being that they've been around longer, there are a lot more templates in order for you to save some time for Word and Excel as opposed to Docs and Sheets then. So in terms of pros and cons, there are benefits and drawbacks to both sides then. For the sake of this presentation today, we're going to be showcasing Excel and Word, as that tends to be the more common version of it that I've seen with business owners. But keep in mind that the majority of the suggestions we cover today will also be applicable to the Google products as well. Even then, there is a lot of compatibility between a Microsoft service and a Google service then. So they both have the same core features, and you could even potentially import a document from one service into another. So if you have the .doc file from a Microsoft Word document, you can then import that into Google Docs and edit it there as well. So one thing that Ray mentioned earlier is that we here at Pitt, we use Microsoft services ourselves, but a lot of the clients I work with in my one-on-one work are using Google Sheets then for that just cheaper, more easily accessible option then. So oftentimes when they send a document to me to review, I either try to download as a .doc file so I can open it in Word, or I give them a heads up of, hey, I'm going to send you this Word document in a .doc form. You can then put it into Google Drive, into Google Docs yourself. Now, that conversion process will work out of the box in that any .doc file you can can be uploaded into the Google software too. But one big caveat is there can be formatting issues when you do that. So like Google Docs and Word are very similar, but they're not the exact same. Something that you have formatted in Word may not look the exact same when you look at it in Google Docs then instead. So keep in mind that there could be some formatting issues if you go back and forth between those options. And here's just a screenshot of if you were working in Google Docs and you needed to import or export from Word then too. For importing into Google, you can take your normal Microsoft Word file and drop it right in. For exporting, there's an option on Google Drive to download your file as a .doc file, so i.e. a Microsoft Word file. So main point of if you're using Microsoft or Google, these tips should be applicable to both, and there's some compatibility there. But just keep in mind that there may be that it won't necessarily be a perfect fit if you're going back and forth between the two of them. So with that, let's go ahead and get started into some actual tips then. So some of our actual tangible aspects here. So we're going to be starting off with Microsoft Word, starting off with some starter tips, some intermediate tips, and then ending with some expert tips then. So I have this slide deck pulled up here, but what I figured would work a little bit better is if I go side by side with actually having Microsoft Word up. So that way, when I'm showcasing the tip on the slide, I can also show it to you in practice here in Microsoft Word on the right-hand side as well. So let's go ahead and get started into these starter tips. So one of the initial tips I want to start off with is that when it comes to Microsoft Word, there are a lot of online resources and templates that you can find out there. So even on Microsoft Word's website, so if I click this link right here, it would open this page right here. Microsoft on their website already has a lot of templates out there for you to use. There's no need for you to rewrite the book here. If someone has already done the work setting up an initial version for yourself, save yourself the time, save yourself the effort, and try to use someone else's templates. That way you can update an existing version instead of having to make something new from scratch. Like if we look at this online, if just at these templates here on the website, they have menus on there. They have promotional documents, newsletters, a resume, an invitation for a party. You can get a lot of your potential marketing materials by just using those online templates. So let's look at this menu right here. So if I click this menu on the website, I can download that version, and then I can click on that, and then boom, I have an editable version of that template right here in Word. I can go in and then say, hey, maybe for this Cobb salad, instead of $14, I want to charge, I want to do a different kind of salad then. So Cobb, $15 then. Maybe I want to list it in a different way then. So if I'm a business trying to create a menu, I can save myself a lot of time by using those online resources. Again, starting from something that's already been made, so that way you don't have to repeat the whole process yourself. So that would be my first beginner tip. Making sure to try to use some of those Word templates, making sure that you're not rewriting the book there, using those resources to help get you going. My second starter tip, something called the Format Painter. So one thing that you can do in Word is you can format your text in different ways. So this sentence right here is formatted in a font called Calibri. You see right up here how it says Calibri font. This one right here is in a different font. It's an Arial. It's also bolded. So do you see how each letter is a little bit thicker then? You can bold it to have different formatting there too. This sentence is in a different font. It's italicized, it's underlined, and it's smaller overall. So you can format your text in a lot of different ways. But let's say that you're working in a document and you want to format a lot of things all at once. You can use what's called the Format Painter to take your text style and easily put the formatting of that text into another location. So this sentence right here, you can use Format Painter to make the sentence have the same format as another section. So if I take this Arial font and highlight it, and then I use this Format Painter option, this little paintbrush right there, I can then, once that's selected, I can then copy over a different section of that, and then it will automatically format that new section to the format of the previous section. So this is a way to save a lot of time for yourself. If you're working on a document and you have a lot of specific things, if you're working on something like your menu where you want the description to be smaller or in a different font than the title heading or the actual menu item itself, then you can use that Format Painter to save yourself a lot of time. And that Format Painter carries over everything for the most part. So that third sentence is in a different font, it's italicized, it's underlined. If I highlight that, select the Format Painter, and then copy it over this section, boom, it's now the exact same format as the previous one too. So that Format Painter is a really, really good way to help carry your text formatting over from section to section. Then you can really save yourself a lot of time with that. Then. Okay, the third tip I want to start with, I want to showcase is what I call the spell check or the editor option. So let's say you're writing a document, you're going to make some typos. Not all of us are perfect here. Mistakes are going to happen. Issues are going to pop up then. So when it comes to your document, within Microsoft Word, there is a spell check option recently been renamed to Editor. So what's really nice is that if you go and make a typo, you'll see this little red underline beneath each word. You see how I tried to spell this right here, and I actually spelled tis. So Microsoft Word will automatically highlight any misspellings that you have there, and to showcase like, hey, we're pretty sure that you made a typo there. Now, using spell check, you can click on it, and you can click on it, and then Word will show you different potential things like, hey, we think you were trying to say this. Is that accurate? So if you click on it, you can then press this, and boom, Word will fix that issue for you. So you could do that on an individual word basis. Like if I click this one right, if I click this word sentence right here, I can fix that one individually. But let's say you have this big document. You've been writing a big essay, a big working document for your team or something along those lines. Well, you can use this editor option right up here. You can either find it on the main home tab, or you can find it under the review tab and then on the editor option. What you can then get is that it will point out any issues that it sees then. So if we look at spelling issues, we can then see, oh, wow, it thinks I have a spelling issue right here. It thinks I have a spelling issue right here. It thinks I have a spelling issue right here. Like it will go through and take a look at each and every single one of your errors to say like, hey, is this really what you were trying for here? How can I fix it for you? What's also nice is that the editor will also point out grammar issues. So let's say, let me fix all the typing here. Let's say I put 2 commas here. If I did another check on that editor option, it might point out that grammar issue of, hey, you have 2 commas here then. You see how there's a blue line under this? It's not only just misspelling words with typos, but if you make any grammar mistakes too, that spell check or editor can really help you fix it then. So mistakes are going to come up, but luckily this software has options and tools for you to help fix it along the way then. So using spell check and editor can be a really good way to double check yourself. I always make sure I do one last check before I send a document to someone, just to make sure that if there's something I missed, then maybe the software could catch it for me then. Okay, so those were the beginner tips. So if you're not very familiar with Word, hopefully that was some information that can help get you started there. Now we're going to get into a little bit more specific tips then. So the first intermediate tip I want to point out is using something called a text box. So when you're normally writing on a page, your text will scroll down normally. You'll just keep going line by line then. But let's say that I want to put specific information in a certain area. You can use what's called a text box to then place a box where you can then type your information in a different area then. So if you can see this example right here, this text on the left side was typed normally. So if I delete this, I typed this text on the left side of the page. And hey, you can see 2 typos I made there. So the text on the left-hand side was just typed normally on the page. But what I did was I put a text box in on the right-hand side. So by typing in this text box here, I can add additional information. And what's nice about this text box itself is that it's pretty maneuverable. So let's say I wanted this smaller. I could increase the size of it, and the other information around it on the page will move accordingly. So let's say I wanted this text box to line up like this. The text that's around it will move in relation to that text box. So you have a lot of options of how you want to do your formatting. If you remember that online example of the bistro menu, a lot of these sections here on this page were set up with text boxes. So like this specific area of salads and entrees, that's its own box separate from entrees with the burgers and the pasta. So by using text boxes, you can really put information in a lot of different ways then. In order to add a text box to your page, what you want to do is you want to go up to the Insert tab up here. So I have it circled in the screenshot on the slides. So if you go to the Insert page, Insert tab, and then go to, there should be an option for text box. I have my bar is a little bit smaller because I only have it on the right-hand side. But it would normally just be listed up there. So go to Insert page, text, and then text box. You can then insert a text box right there onto the page then. So let's say I wanted to put this text box right here. If I want to put a text box right in the middle of the page then I can try to figure out, I can play around with it a little bit, try to figure out the exact way, the best way to put that information on there then. So text boxes are a really good way to put information into specific areas, try to think of more ways to line up your document than just typing straight down the page then. So my next intermediate tip is using the Save As option for templates. So remember earlier that I mentioned that there are a lot of those online resources for templates? Well, let's look at this bistro menu example right here. So let's say for this bistro menu, I also want to have a version of this menu. Let's say I want to have a version for my normal restaurant. Let's say I also want to have a catering option then. What I can do is I already have this version saved as a bistro menu. If I go up here to the file option and then go to save a copy, I can then save an exact copy of this version, but with a different name then. So let's say instead of bistro menu, I want to label this catering menu. So let me go ahead and change this to catering menu. So by using that save as or save a copy, I now have two versions of this saved. I have that. I don't want to change that one. I want to leave that for the normal restaurant then. But now I have this catering menu option. So now let's go ahead and change some of the options then. I can now change it to catering menu. If I, let's say that, you know, on the catering side, I don't have the equipment to go and actually make tea. Maybe I don't have the hot water press, or I don't have a kettle with me. I can then go and I can start taking certain information out there. I already have the normal menu on there, but now I'm making a second version of this document to then fit specifically my catering options then. So by creating a template, like a standard menu template, and then using that save as, you can make a lot of different versions of your information then. So let's say I'm doing catering for a school event, or graduations has been happening recently. Let's say I'm doing a catering event for someone's high school graduation, but the person has certain allergy restrictions. Let's say that they can't eat peanut butter. Well, then if they have a peanut allergy, I can then make sure on my menu to take off any certain options that then have those allergens in them. I can fit my menu to the specific needs of the event that I'm working then by making these different versions of the menu then. And you can make those different versions by using that save as and then creating a new template every time. So I really highly recommend using that save as to try to make different versions of your information then. Okay. So the next tip I want to go into is exporting your Word documents as a PDF file instead. So we're going to be using this bistro menu again, the same exact thing then. So if you'll remember earlier, when I was speaking about the differences between Microsoft Word and Google Docs, remember that I said that you can convert a Word document into a Google Docs, but there may be some formatting issues. Well, I just did that exact example here. So what I did was I went and uploaded this bistro menu into Google Docs. And if you can look at the comparison here, you might see some formatting issues that are different between the two sides. So if you see here, right at the very top, this bistro menu, if I change this back to bistro as opposed to catering, if you can see here, this font looks a lot different on Microsoft Word than it does on Google Docs. It looks like it's a different font. It's not as bold. It's not as striking then. And if you look across a lot of these different options here, the same goes for the text for this established 2020. What about the entrees right here? What Google Docs did when it took the Microsoft Word file over is it converted it and got it looking as best as it could, but a lot of your specific information wasn't carried over properly. Like the formatting for a lot of these is now different. Like on this side, Cobb, Caesar, and Greek are all the same sizes. But in the Google Docs version, for some reason, Cobb is smaller than Caesar. Like I'm not sure why that formatting issue happened. So if you are working with another organization or if you're working with someone else and you want to make sure that the version, so when you have a document completed, what you have to be worried about is if you send that document to someone, they might not receive the exact same looking document if they open it in a different version. So like I said earlier, we work entirely in Microsoft. The version I create in Microsoft might look a lot different if someone then opens that in Google Docs. So how can I get around that? How can I make sure that the version I see is the exact same version as someone else sees? Well, that's what this tip is for right here. By exporting your file as a PDF file, you can make sure that the version you see is the exact same version that someone else sees. So a PDF file is an uneditable file. You can't edit it like you can with this, but it makes sure that the appearance of your file that you see on your end will be the exact same as something that you see on someone else's end. So let's go ahead and export this menu right here as a PDF and see what it looks like then. So the way I like to export as a PDF is if you go up here in the top left to File, then go down to Print. When you go to Print, there's an option among your different printer options for Microsoft Print to PDF. So what I found the easiest way to print my document, to export my documents as a PDF is by going to File, Print, Microsoft Print to PDF, and then you can print the document right there. So I'm going to click Print. I'm going to save this as Bistro Menu dash 61423. And then if I go and open that Bistro menu, okay, yeah, sometimes it takes a second to load. The exporting process takes a little bit. There it goes. I can then see, hey, this version, this PDF version looks exactly like the version I had on Word then. What's then really nice about this is then if I'm sending this menu to someone, let's say I'm sending this menu to a event I have coming up where I want to make sure that that event organizer has my menu ahead of time. I can make sure that the version of the menu that they have does not have any formatting issues. It looks exactly like I want to see it then. So by exporting as a PDF, you can avoid any of those compatibility issues then. And with those issues, you can export on PDF on Google Docs as well then. So you can go to File, Download, and then download it as a PDF too. So, so the main thing is use the PDF to avoid any of those formatting issues as they arise then. All right, so we went over some of those intermediate tips. Let's go ahead and get into some expert level tips then. So one really helpful option here is by using the find and replace functions. So on the Home tab here, if you go to Editing, you can use what's the Find button to then try to find each and every single time that you say a word in a document here. So let's say I'm just looking for the word find. Well, tell you what, looks like I've used the word find 12 times in this document. So I have it right there, I have it right there, right there, right there. So you can use that to find how many times you say something. But let's say I don't just want to find. Let's say I made a whole document using someone's name and I misspelled that name. Well, not only can you find all of those things, you can also use find and replace. So let's say I want to find all the times I say find and then replace them with the word replace. So by using find or replace, I can either go individually. So, okay, I found find right there. Let's replace that with this. Let's replace it with replace. Let's replace it with replace. Or you could even click replace all, where it will then, like all of the times that you say something. So let's say that you've been using someone's name in a lot of the document. It turns out you misspelled that name. Well, that's an easy way for you to then go and fix your mistake across the board. Now, two things to point out there is that replace all can be a little bit risky because let's say I didn't want to change that one up top there. Well, since that text was still find, it replaced that one. Find and replace also won't fix anything if you have a typo there. So this one, I tried to spell find and I misspelled it. So when I did replace all, it didn't fix this one because it wasn't the exact word find then. So even if you use replace all, make sure to do a double check in your document to make sure that everything ends up working out there. Okay, the next tip I want to go into is having different heading types. So within Microsoft Word, you can format different text into a different heading type. So what that refers to there is you can make sure that you have consistent styles across your document by having different headings, by labeling it as a heading 1, a heading 2, a subtitle. Let's say that you want to have a very consistently formatted business plan document. And what you want is, for this section, you want to start off with that text you want to have a subsection start with that, and then have another section start with that then. So you can then you can then format those heading labels as heading types then. So for this section right here, if I then highlight it and then go to styles heading 1, I can then make sure that the Word document itself will realize that's what I want my heading to be. And you can do that for a lot of different options. Like right here, I have 3 different heading types right here, but you can see there are a lot of different options and different ways you can add it. You can add different styles then. Let's say that I start typing this business plan and I realize that, oh, that subsection has a lot of info. I should expand on that a little bit. Well, you can go right back and change that heading to be a different section then, and boom, you'll have your same formatting right there then too. So heading types can be a really good way to organize your document. Make sure you have consistent formatting then. Heading types are also really important when it comes to creating a table of contents. So you can use Microsoft Word to create a table of contents automatically based off of those said heading types. So let's say I want a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3 in my table of contents. Well, let me go ahead and label these each section then. So for part 1, let's label that heading 1. For part 2 is a little bit smaller. Let me say for part 2, I only label that as heading 2 then. But part 3 is another big section, so I'm going to go ahead and also label that part 3 then. If I go up here to references and then table of contents, I can create an automatic table of contents based off of these different heading types then. So if you remember that the previous section had beginning, middle, end, well, this table of contents automatically updated to then have those heading types reflected as well then. Put the exact page number we had it on, it had the description of what those sections are. Having those heading types really, really helps to format a consistent document. Make sure to save yourself the time when creating something like that table of contents. And so with that, we've covered 9 specific tips when it comes to working with Microsoft Word then. We've gone over some starter tips, intermediate tips, and some expert tips. So now let's transition over to Excel then. So with Excel, the way I've set it up is in a very similar way then. So let's go ahead and jump right into the starter tips then. So in Excel, the way Excel works is that you put different information into different sections here. So if you see these little rectangles here, those are called cells, and you can put different information into those cells and do different things with said information there. So one of the most basic functions is by using a formula to get different things about your information there. So one of the most common formulas is the sum formula. So if I go up here and click this insert function button, you can then see, oh, okay, the sum button right here. You can then use this format button right here to try to help set up your formulas. If you're not sure of one thing, you can also search for more information there. So let me go ahead and click sum here, and let's try to set up sum here. So let's say I want the sum of these cells right here. I can just click and drag just those cells right there, and then boom, it'll tell me, okay, if you add up all of these together, you'll get 55 as the total number for adding up all of these different numbers here. But let's say I want to average it. Well, let's do the same type of thing then. Let's go up to FX here. Okay, wow, average is right there. I can click average. Then I can do the same thing here. So I want to find the average of these cells right here. And it can tell me, okay, 5.5 is about the average there. What about the mode? Let's say I want to find the most common one. Well, I don't see mode as an option right there. So if I go ahead and type in mode right here and search for it, wow, there's a mode function right there too. So let me select mode and try to find the most common instance of that then too. Well, it's giving me an error because, hey, there's only one of each. There's not really a mode there. What about the median? So let's do that same thing here for the median. Okay, so we'll do median, and then we'll select the range for that then. And it gives us the median of, hey, 5.5, being right in the middle there then too. So what's nice about these functions is that you can also copy them over from place to place then. So let's say I already did this for this row right here. But let's say I want to find the sum for this column right here instead then. So if I copy this and paste it over there, well, hey, it's copied over that same formula from section to section. Now, instead of finding the sum of those 10 over here, I'm now finding the sum of those 10 for the next column over then. And you can do that for each of these then. So if I do that for the average, well, it turns out we have an average of 10 then. Do that for the mode, well, hey, it's going to give us like, hey, you have 10 the most commonly then. If we do that for the median, also do it this way. What's also important to note about these formulas is that if you set them up correctly, they will automatically update as you change this information there. So let's say instead of 10 here, I'm going to put 20. Well, if you noticed, my sum went up because I increased by 10 from 20, and my average went up because I increased one of those from 10 to 20 there. The mode didn't change because we still have the 10 the most, and the median didn't change because that didn't change either. Well, let's say I then go and put in 400 billion. Well, that will also update those different information there. So as you start changing some of these options then, those formulas will automatically update to showcase a difference in information in those sections then. So if it turns out you made a typo and you go back and fix it, those formulas will automatically update to showcase you updating the information for those formulas. And so because Excel automatically does that information there, what I really recommend is just letting Excel do the work for you. Like, I can't tell you how many typos I've made trying to keep track of section by section. What I really recommend is just letting Excel do the work for you. Like, the way you want to set it up is that way, if you make a mistake, then Excel will go through and update it for you. You don't want one mistake you make by typing in something manually to then compound itself somewhere else later then. So what I did was on this page right here, I set up a very simple version to showcase a business. Let's say I'm selling burgers and I'm selling hot dogs. Let's say I'm going to make $10 in revenue for a burger, $8 for a hot dog, but it costs me $3 to make the burger, cost me $2 to make the hot dog. And then so I can then use a formula here of this location minus this location to then find out my margin for each of these products there. So let me go ahead and delete that. So let's say I want to find that margin there of my $10 in revenue minus the $3 of material then. By showcasing it that way, I make sure that I keep that margin the same then. Now, let's say I made a mistake, or let's say that the cost of purchasing those burger patties has gone up. Let's say it's not costing me $3 anymore. Let's say it's now costing me $4. They make a hot dog, instead of $2, it's now cost me $4 too. What will happen is that that margin calculation, because I set it up as a formula instead of just typing in 7 manually, it will then update to reflect those changes in information there then. So when it comes to Excel, one of my really best tips there is make sure to use formulas so that way any changes you make will be reflected across the board then. So for that section right there, if I made a mistake, made a typo, or I needed to update and more information there, by formatting this one right here as equals revenue minus material, I can then make sure that any other calculations I do on that margin will carry over across the entire document. Another really easy tip is using the option to copy cells across rows or columns then. So if you see, it might be a little bit hard to see on the Zoom screen right here, but if you see in the corner of these cells right here, whatever cell you currently have selected, this green rectangle right here, there's a little box in the corner of that cell. And what you can do is you can use that square to then copy your formatting across some different areas then. So I have this one right here. If I click the box and start going down, well, hey, it'll carry that number 1 over a lot of areas then. But let's say, and so it did that because I had a pattern of 1 being there. So if I went down and if I scroll down, it's going to carry that 1 across a lot of different areas then. But Excel won't always be able to interpret things the way that you necessarily want them to. Sometimes it works a little bit better to establish a pattern first. So let's say I want it to be, I want this whole section to go up by 1 each time. If I just take that 1 and I go down, it's going to carry that 1 over the whole time. So what I can do instead is if I type manually 1, 2, 3, 4, and then highlight that 1, 2, 3, 4, I could then use that same box to carry over a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can save myself a lot of time by establishing a pattern on there and then carrying it over too. And that doesn't necessarily just need to be, it doesn't necessarily just need to be, you know, just going up by 1 each time. Well, this pattern right here is going up by 2, right? So if I scroll this down a little bit, then it will carry over that same formula each. It'll carry over that same pattern each time. Then this section right here is actually formatted as a formula. What I'm doing is I'm taking this section right there and I'm timesing it by 3, which is then giving me the result of 3 then, right? So 1 times 3 is 3. If I take this down the whole way, it will carry that same formula over then. So if I see this section right here of C equals C13 times 3, it's still giving me 13 times 3, 39 then. And so that way, again, setting it up as a formula, if I go back over here and I say, okay, I didn't want that to be 13, turns out I actually want this to be 18. Well, hey, those formulas will also automatically update too. And even then, it doesn't necessarily need to just be numbers when you're copying these cells across. Right here, I have months just listed as January, February, and March. And I have the month and the year. So if I then do that same copying it down, well, guess what? Looks like it's showing me each month then. It's going from March to April to May, June, July, even into the next year, into 2024 then. So that's that copying cells across rows and columns doesn't just need to be numbers either. It can even be different formattings. So in this date, I had it set up month by month. But this one right here, I have it formatted day by day. So January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd. If I highlight it again and copy it across, well, hey, it's now going day by day. It's going to show me the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on. So that copying cells across rows and columns can really help save you a lot of time then. Don't spend the time typing a manual like January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd. Go through it and set up a pattern and then copy it down across to save yourself that time. Okay, so with that, we've cleared some of the basic tips for Excel then. Let's go into some more intermediate tips then. So one important thing is to showcase using a $ in a cell name for your formulas. So this is kind of combining all of what we talked about in the beginner section together and then adding one more piece to it too then. So let's say I want to figure out not just my cost on my revenue, my material costs, and my margin on a per transaction basis. Let's say I want to figure that out for how many transactions I'm doing then. Well, let's say I'm having an event next week and I'm expecting to sell 100 hamburgers and 50 hot dogs. So if I go put in like, okay, I'm expecting 100 hamburgers and 50 hot dogs. Well, let's go ahead and try to make a formula to showcase that then. So what I want to do is we're just going to use a basic formula. We're just multiplying two things together. I want to find my overall revenue. So if I calculate my revenue per transaction, so C4 where that $10 is, times that 100 transactions, I'm expecting to sell about 100 hamburgers. I could then find out that $10 times 100 burgers equals to about $1,000 then. Now, I'm going to show you what not to do first to showcase the issue here. Now that I have that formula set up, let's copy it across with that box in the corner like I just described. So, oh no, I'm getting $0 for my material and $0 for my margin. That doesn't sound right. What the issue is that copying across doesn't always know exactly what you're looking for there. So what happened this time is that it went over 1 for the burger. So instead of revenue, it went over 1 to material, which is what I want. But it also went over 1 from that burger section right here. So it's no longer timesing it by 100 burgers like I want it to. It's now timesing it by a blank cell. So how do you fix that? You fix that by putting $signs into your cell name. So if you go up here to this D9 right there, you add a $D, $9, what it will do is it will keep that one cell the same, static, across, constant across when you drag that over them. So now if I drag this across then, it's now giving me the proper percentage. It's now staying at that 100 amount of hamburgers then each time then too. So by putting that by putting those dollars into the formula names, you can make sure you stay consistent, or you can make sure you can keep one cell constant as you go across different areas then. Another really helpful thing in Excel is hiding certain rows or different areas. So if you'll remember, what I suggested before is to make sure that you let Excel do the math for you. So right here, I set up some monthly revenue amounts. And what I did was I set up to show a quarterly view too. So I have January, February, and March, but I also want Q1 to be the sum of all of these different things then. So it's adding up that 100, that 200, that 300. So I'm letting Excel do the math for me to figure out how much those quarterly amounts will be. However, I want to show this to someone, and I don't want them to see all those individual months. What I want to look at is just those quarters. So what I can do is I can go and hide some information in Excel then. So if I went and deleted this info, suddenly my formula doesn't work anymore because I got rid of it. It doesn't know what to add up anymore. But what you can do is you can hide the information instead. So if I highlight these rows right here and then right click on it and then select hide, what it does is it doesn't display that information anymore then. It's still doing the calculation. It still knows that that information is there, but it's now hiding that information. So that way I can see the things I really want to focus on then. So if I hide those rows then for each month, I can then see the exact, okay, this is what I want to be looking at. I'm now looking at it on that quarterly basis then. So hiding rows and columns can often be a way to make sure that your information displays a little bit better then. Okay, the next intermediate tip I want to go into is showcasing something called freezing panes. So one thing Excel is common for is having these large databases here. So what I did was I just went and put a lot of information in here. Let's say I'm looking at all these different months there, all these different products, and I'm trying to find a specific information here. But I'm scrolling through it, and suddenly I'm finding that, hey, it's having, I don't know where I am right here. This 1040, where am I? I'm in October 23 of product 9 then. So I'd have to scroll all the way back up to the top to find it then. What you can do instead is you can do something called freezing your panes to make sure that a piece of information will always keep there. So if you go to View, and then Freeze Panes, you can kind of like highlight. You can try to choose two things to always keep top of mind then. So let me freeze the top row. Let me freeze the first column too. Or let me freeze the first column then. So let's say I want to make sure I keep track of what month it is. So by freezing it, let me make this text a little bit bigger so it's easier to see then. So by freezing this first column, the first column right there, as I scroll through this, it's going to leave that information there on the left side always there. So as I'm scrolling through, I can always make sure, oh, okay, this 790 right now is coming from Q1 2023 then. Or if I scroll down to another section, I can see, oh, this 1290 is coming from November 23 then. So as you start getting more and more information out there, freezing those panes can really help make sure that you focus on important information, or that you can always locate information to track where you are then. So let's go ahead and get into some expert tips then. So I'm not going to go through setting this up, but one really useful formula is called XLOOKUP. So let's say that you have a big database there and you want to find a specific information in there. So I set up this XLOOKUP formula to find a specific total revenue for a certain date then. So let's say I want to find the date for June 2023. I want to find what we're expecting for this very month right here. 06/2023. And well, I mean, it was already the same, but it would go and upgrade it up. This cell would update to have that information in there. Let's say I want to find it for Q2 2023. Well, by using XLOOKUP, the formula will then look up where that information is in your database and then give you the exact answer then. How about Q1 2025? Well, it went and found that information there too. So XLOOKUP is a really useful formula. It's a little bit hard to understand to set up, but that could be a really good formula to use if you're trying to work with a large set of data then. Another expert tip is formatting your information in different styles, different formatting then. So right now, if we look at this, all of these cells right here are just formatted as general. I just typed them in, they don't have any specific format here. Well, let's say that these amounts here are dollars. So let me go ahead and change it to an accounting number format. Well, if you see, it then went and changed how this information is displaying here then. So in accounting, they typically break out to the nearest cent, right? So for this section right here, it's displaying as 0.00, even though I still have that little amount there. For this section, that 0.005 rounds up to 0.01. Down here, that $5,000 still stays $5,000 then. So for something like financial projections, it can make a lot of sense to showcase your numbers into that specific format then. But there are a lot of different formats here. Let's say we want it as a percentage. Well, if we change these things to a percentage, it will then add a percentage to each of these areas then. So, so what was 0.5, if we then change that to a percentage, then becomes 50%. So by changing it to a percentage with the formatting, it will then also change that cell information to then fit that area then. What was 5,000 suddenly becomes 500,000% then. And there are a lot of different formats to choose and play with there. You can even, if you want to get more specific with your information, you can break out your information even more. If you really just wanted to round there. So for example, the 0% is displaying as 0, but in reality, it's still 0.05. And Excel, if you did math, would still account for that then. But using those formatting, you can then play with how you want that information to be displayed then. So what it rounds to, how many significant digits you have to showcase there. Okay. The last expert tip I want to showcase you today is an option to double check yourself with those formulas. So when you start working on an Excel document, it can be really easy. It can be really easy for everything to blow up too big for you to lose track of everything then. So right now, as we're looking at this, it's displaying the exact numbers for these different areas then. But there's an option to change your display, what you're looking at, just to showcase your formulas. So if you go up to formulas up here and then click show formulas, in the normal view, it will display the word, but since I have it shrunk here, it's just giving me the icon. But if I click display formulas, what it will do is it will then change my view to showcase the actual formulas I have written right here. So this margin calculation, is showcasing, okay, you are subtracting your revenue minus your material. So that looks good then. That looks like how I want it to look then. But let's say I had made a typo here. Let's say for this section, instead of D, I typed in E. Well, I could then look at these formulas and see, okay, that looks good, that looks good. Oh, that doesn't. Oh, I see an issue there because I'm looking at the formula view, then I could see that mistake was off then. So if you go and get a large document where you have it set up correctly, like I said, let Excel do the math for you. Using that show formulas option can be a good way for you to check yourself of making sure that all of this information is looking correctly. Everything is looking good there. And it's just an easy toggle on and off. It doesn't actually change anything unless you make any edits. Showing formulas won't actually change anything. It's really just a way for you to double check yourself. Look at your Excel sheet in a different way then. And so with that, that was a lot of information to go through right there. You've covered a lot of information between 9 tips for Word and then 9 specific tips for Excel then. So a lot of information. So let's open it up for any questions. Do you have any questions on the information that we've covered today? We can go over it here then.
This was awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
I learned so much, I'm worried I'll forget it all.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you're worried about forgetting it, as I understand, the plan is to send a copy of these slides after the presentation. So
absolutely, that's what we're going to do as soon as we're done. We're going to send a copy of the slide presentation with the survey. So first you'll get the survey and then you'll get the presentation. So you know what that means, everyone. We need to hear on both fronts from everyone. Johnny, I can't thank you enough. We might have to do this again.
yeah, well,
Excel has more features, I think, than many people realize. You can close it now. But it's been helpful for us as chamber members to know the resource available within that, so that we can move forward on it. Thank you. And thank you, Ray, for leading this effort with us.
And I think the next session is going to be on PowerPoint.
Yes.
Is that on PowerPoint, Johnny?
yeah, the next section I have will be going over PowerPoint and
Power.
Outlook.
Yep.
And when is that scheduled for? Just to give people a
July 19th.
Ray,
July
you're stealing
19th,
my
so-
thunder, Ray.
Oh, I'm sorry,
19th.
Doris. I thought you were going to be going to your meeting, so I
No, I'm
apologize.
going to close this out. This
Okay.
has been excellent. I appreciate this so much. Don't forget, everyone, complete the survey, and also we will send you the presentation. Don't forget, Friday is our Power Breakfast with Jason Brown, the Executive Director for Carnegie Science Center. Hope you'll join us. Most importantly, we need you there on the 20th for our members mixer. We've got a special announcement we want to make at the members mixer, and we want you there. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you again, Johnny and Ray. And we look to see you soon. And this concludes our workshop on tips and trips on using Word and Excel. Take care.
Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem.